Hello, welcome to this week's episode of Sportscast Podcast. This week we look at some big news coming out of Formula One, a usual rundown of this week's football results and talking points, the Six Nations is back, and we will look at the cricket.
Gentlemen, how are we?
Yeah, all good. You?
Yeah, very well. Jordan?
Yeah, doing pretty well, thank you very much.
Good. I think it's been a very, very busy week, but I think for me, we've got to start with quite probably the biggest bit of transfer news, I'd say, in sporting history.
What big old call is that?
Well, tell me what's been bigger. Sol Campbell, Arsenal to Spurs to Arsenal? No way.
No, I get what you're saying. For context, we're talking about Lewis Hamilton's move from Mercedes to Ferrari as of 2025.
Yes, absolutely.
Mental.
Massive.
It literally came out of nowhere as well. Liam, I know you shared a tweet with me. I can't remember when it was, Monday morning or Tuesday morning.
It was the night before. Will Buxton. Someone had said something, and he just commented. Basically said, "If you think silly season is over, I've heard a rumor that tomorrow that's going to be the news of all news or something like that."
And news of all news is literally that. I mean, you've got arguably the greatest Formula One driver in history. Technically, statistically, the most successful, but arguably, probably, there's only three people potentially that could be called the greatest, and he's one of them. Moving from a team that he's been with for years and years and years and years and years, he's won 7 world titles and constructors championships, and has been an integral part of the transformation of Mercedes to what it is now. Moving to Ferrari.
And considering that he quashed the rumours last season, and which I believe at the time was the case, but does he know something? He did this when he went from McLaren to Mercedes. He had a poor first season, knowing that the following season the car was going to be outstanding because the regulation changes. Does he think that something's going to?
Possibly. I think one thing that I definitely don't think it is, which I personally, for my own opinion, can rule out, is the fact that he is doing it for money, or he's doing it because it's the end of his career, for example. You only have to look at Alonso, who, like, he loves racing, and every single one of those guys are racers, and he is a racer at heart. And I think that he's got enough money to do whatever he wants to do for the rest of his life, and he's very principled, and he likes the environment, and he's like stands up for kind of
what he believes in.
Yeah. So I don't necessarily think it's anything to do with money, although it's pretty decent.
So to interject, from what I've read, last year he wanted a 3-year deal with Mercedes, and they would only offer him a 1+1. But he also wanted some investment for something that he's got going on. I can't remember what it was. It was some sort of racing program. But Ferrari have obviously offered him a multi-year, which rumours to be 3, and they've promised the investment, which rumours to be in the region of around $300 to $400 million. This investment.
Wow.
But Ferrari's stock did go up overnight 15 billion.
Wow.
So the trade-off's probably been worth it.
Yeah. Wow.
So this is all, if you do believe everything you read kind of thing, but it does make sense. He wanted a multi-year deal, wouldn't offer him. They gave him a 1+1. He's going to do his 1, and he's got out of his +1.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think what can't be overlooked, and I know we've just spent the first 4.5 minutes talking about Lewis Hamilton, but one thing that can't be overlooked is Carlos Sainz. He's now effectively being pushed out of a team that he potentially could have signed for during the summer break with Formula One. I can't see where he'll go next, but only that's because we've not even started the 2024 season. You don't know which drivers are performing, which drivers aren't, and where we're going to go into silly season with what point scorings in the Constructors' Championship. But For me, and I genuinely believe what I'm about to say is Ferrari do not have a first driver. They do not have a preferred lead driver. I think Sainz and Leclerc are on par. And if I had to choose, I would say Sainz shows more kind of impressive racing skill than Leclerc does. But he is always on the preferred strategy. And I think that's why he's a little bit more successful than Carlos Sainz is, or has been.
But Sainz was the only non-Red Bull driver to win a race this year as well.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, Singapore.
So, but yeah, it's massive. I'm sure there'll be more news and rumours to come through the season, and I can see Sainz ended up partnering Max and Perez going somewhere else, and I can even see Mick Schumacher getting into Mercedes and Russell being the lead driver.
I don't think that'd be a bad shout. I think Mick Schumacher was given a really, 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 really bad car, and then said, "There you go, go and do what your dad did."
Yeah, pretty much.
So, yeah, I can see that. Let's park that for the next 11 races and then see where we are.
See where we're at.
Summer break, yeah.
One thing I do want to quickly touch on, though, before we probably go into some of the other big news, and it is around the sport, and the Saudis are looking to buy 4 Gallagher Premiership rugby teams. So that all the talk that we've had on the Saudis buying golf, buying tennis, buying half of the Premier League, they're now looking at buying some rugby clubs as well, which I don't know what that'll do because there's a lot more financial restriction on what they can and can't do. So, but that being said, the Six Nations was back this weekend. James will have watched plenty, I'm sure.
Belting weekend for rugby.
I can't get over just how. I mean, Ireland really took France to the cleaners. There's no two ways about that.
It did. I watched that game, and the French just didn't turn up. They just looked lethargic. They just looked like they couldn't. Whether or not it's because they were playing in a different state, they weren't playing in Paris, where they were playing in Marseille.
Yeah, why was that? Do we know, or just
got absolutely no idea why that was? Whether or not
maybe the farmers like.
Yeah, you know what? That could be a very viable thing, yeah.
Yeah, probably, yeah. But, I mean, whether or not they're trying to take the sport more around the country, which I quite like the idea of that, back in the day, when we used to have the international footy games played at Villa Park and whatnot. So
St James's,
it was a great game of rugby. France went down to 14 men, 2 yellow cards for their lock. Their number 5, he was few occasions collapsing the mauls and whatnot. So
I do think they were yellow cards. The first one was that high tackle, and I think
definitely that was the correct
decision
for that. Absolutely, yeah. And Italy yesterday as well. They really took it to England yesterday.
Oh, did they?
They looked. They. And I think it's the first time I've said it since they joined the competition 20 years ago, whenever it was. It's they actually looked the real deal yesterday.
Yeah, they had a good chance last year, and they pushed France within a few points of the first game. It wasn't until I think it was the 78th, 79th minute France scored a try last year in the opening game. Italy, had them basically, but I just think they're just lacking that killer instinct.
Yeah, I think it's there. I think it's just bringing it out. I mean, they looked very disciplined. Their defence yesterday was absolutely fantastic as well. They brought the lines up quick to shut the English out, and they really did look a very well organised team. In years gone by, they've always looked like they're just headless chickens running around the park just chasing the ball, but they actually looked disciplined and looked like they had a game plan yesterday, and they very, very nearly did put one over on England.
Yeah. And then the next sort of big game was absolutely phenomenal.
Tell you what, it was phenomenal from the second half onwards. The first half was probably, from a Welsh point of view, it's probably the worst performance in the best part of a decade that the Welsh have put in. They were absolutely shocking in that first half.
I think Gathers has said that it was the worst half of rugby that he's ever coached, ever.
Yeah, and I'd go with that. Absolutely, he was. It was awful. I went down to my local yesterday to watch that. I'm sat there, I'm watching it. We're going at half time, 20-0 down. Okay, cool. And I thought, sod it. I thought, sod it. I don't watch the second half.
90 seconds into the second half.
27.
Takes it through.
But I went back through the other side of the bar to watch a bit of the football, and I was like, I've got to watch it. I've got to go and watch it. And boy, am I glad I did. That second half, the Welsh performance from 27-0 down to nearly bring it back and beat the Scots as well. It was an absolutely fantastic performance by the Welsh in the second half.
I saw a lot again on social media. There was a very late on, 78th minute, 79th minute, there was a seatbelt tackle 40 metres out that was kickable, that the ref missed. But then the ref, O'Keefe, he missed quite a lot both ways, to be fair. So we can sit there and say that. We weren't rooking particularly well anyway. So it weren't ever going to be, if you'd have had that, you'd have won the game. Well, if he'd done it properly, we wouldn't have probably. Scotland should have been out of sight at half time. They should be out of sight 27-0, to be fair, but they just absolutely imploded. And I mean, I say hung on for dear life. They had a try held up the final play of the game where
down on his foot, didn't he? Instead,
Rio Dyer went down with Rio Dyer got in with his legs. So
it's been a great opening weekend for Six Nations rugby. This it really had, and if the next rounds are going to go like this one, I think it's up there to be one of the best Six Nations that there's ever been, because it's just been absolutely fantastic. And
I agree. It's just a shame that we now know who's won it from the result of Friday night.
Well, I know Ireland are the number 2 in the world, and I know that was the game being put out there. Whoever wins this game is going to win the Six Nations. And at the start of the tournament, I agreed with that. But watching how the Scots played yesterday, what potential the Welsh have got there, and Italy, I don't think it's going to be as big a walkover as what people think for the Irish. And it wouldn't surprise me if they don't win the tournament.
I think you've been down to your local again today.
I think it's the first time I haven't been down there today. So yeah.
I just can't see. They play Italy next week. The momentum that will take for them. They'll play Italy. They've got a week off. They're just so strong. Like, absolutely, they're just phenomenal. And the little things come out of that game, they're without Sexton, so it's a new era for Irish rugby. They just look so good. And it was Joe McCarthy in the second row for Ireland. They've put it down as probably one of the greatest individual performances in Six Nation history. They're just phenomenal. And Jack Cowley did very well for his first game after Sexton. I just can't see beyond them. I just can't. And that was it. The players that were missing France have unfortunately been with Anton Dupont. Probably, he's only about 26, but he's going to probably go on to be one of the greatest rugby union players of all time, if not the greatest rugby union players of all time. And he played last night, and he played at 10, and he was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. There's 2 or 3 things he did that just absolutely just lit the game up. But next week he leaves club rugby and he goes to play with France Sevens, as he wants to win a few Sevens tournaments now. So I don't get the decision, but he's won Six Nations. He hasn't won a World Cup, but he just wants to go and see what he can win with his country, I guess, in an Olympic year.
Well, yeah, there's that, isn't there? And it's in France as well, isn't it? So it's I'll be honest, the Sevens rugby teams form of players that generally don't quite make it in their top divisions. I think that's fair to say. And you've got someone like Anton Dupont going to it, so I think you could stick them with 6 players, and I still think they'd come on top. Well, watch your space.
Good weekend of football.
Yeah, it's lovely. What a good win today for the Arsenal.
Big win.
Much needed win. Much needed. We had a nice win midweek as well, away at Nottingham Forest, which was they've tripped us up a few times over the last few seasons within the Premiership and the FA Cup and things like that. So it was a good midweek of football as well. Really, Luton put them 4 past Brighton as well. I mean, who would have
Took
seen
them
that?
up after 3 minutes.
This is what I mean. There's been. Palace got a very much needed win, all right, albeit against Sheffield United that are propping up the rest of the teams. But and the Villa Newcastle game as well, which was a nice win for Newcastle, considering Villa have been on a little bit of form lately. That was quite a shock. And and what's not a shock is Chelsea got absolutely battered midweek and again yesterday. What is happening with Chelsea Football Club?
I don't know. Pochettino is a fantastic manager, and I do think it's a club based problem. I don't think it's a it's a little bit like the Man United problem at the minute. It's a culture thing. It's a institutionalized thing. They've got the players. They've not got the players they had to be breaking top 4, but to drop so many points, they're sat 11th in the league.
I don't think they've done a great deal of business during the January transfer window, but when you're having 8 goals put by you in 2 games, you'd like to think you need to bolster your defence a little bit, don't you?
And one of them at home.
Yeah.
So it's you've got to be concerned if you were if you were Chelsea, and then Villa. Okay, lost to Newcastle midweek, but then put in 5 against Sheffield United, 3 in 20 minutes, 4 at half time.
Yeah,
embarrassing, really.
Sheffield United have not turned up at all this season for the Premier League. They do not look like. They just look like they're there just to make the numbers up now, aren't they? They're not putting in solid performances. They're not. They're just not going with it. I mean, you're 4-0 down at half time. At least come out and give it a go. But there was nothing. They just sat back again, And
so I have seen a conversation recently around the fund, not the funding, like the prize money and the amount of money that recently promoted teams get for being promoted, and we're talking about Sheffield, and we're talking about Luton and sort of teams like that. If you can go up and then immediately go back down, then it is absolutely no financial reward whatsoever. In fact, it's just elation for the fans and then immediate kind of kick in. You get battered every single time you go home or away, and it's just a really shitty year for the fans. And then you go back down. If you can stop up for a couple of seasons in a row, then you've got a heck of a lot better chance at staying permanently in the Premier League. But I don't know whether there is enough chance for teams to do that. I mean, they only need to not be 17th or below, but even so, it's been terrible, awful to see Sheffield United get battered, even to newly promoted Luton as well recently.
But the thing is, Luton are giving it a go. I mean, who in their right mind would have put on an acca yesterday or gone into a bookies and gone Newcastle Luton 4-4?
Oh, not many.
I had 500 quid on it.
Probably Jordan, but that's a different addiction altogether.
Yeah. But that's just at least Luton are giving it a go. I mean, they're not great to watch. They're not going to stay in the Premier League, but you can see them week in, week out. No, I don't think so. I think Luton will go down.
Wow, I'll be honest. I can see him saying, I think it might be Forest, Burnley, and Sheffield United. I think Everton might do it.
Well, they're looking at taking another 6 points off them, aren't they, Everton?
Yeah.
What would that be? Would that be 16 or 26?
16.
Yeah, they're looking at they're looking at Everton, and there was another team as well, isn't
Chelsea.
Chelsea. I thought it was Brentford.
Oh, I saw Chelsea and City was still in there.
No, it's not the Chelsea City one. It might be Brentford as well. They're looking at taking points off of both of them. They're looking at taking 10 points off of both. I think it's Brentford are contesting it, but I think Everton have gone, do you know what? Yeah, crack on.
Well, Everton's appeal for those 10 points started this week as well, so that you will see how that goes.
I don't like that. Like we shouldn't be doing things retrospectively. That they shouldn't have had the 10-point deduction unless the appeal process had been completed. Because what happens now if Luton Town, for example, sits 17th, they're a point in front of Everton, they think they're safe in the last game of the season, and then they get 10 points added on. I don't agree with retrospective decisions.
Didn't this happen with... wasn't it when Sheffield United got relegated, when Tevez scored for West Ham to keep them up in the Premier League, and then West Ham got done for it the following season? But they had points deducted the following season, which meant that those points would have kept Sheffield United in the Premier League. Is that what it was?
That was when they took Tevez and that Mascherano.
Mascherano, yeah, because they technically wasn't owned by West Ham.
No.
So, yeah, it's a bit iffy, and I probably agree with you there, John. They've got to do a lot more in it. I think what Everton have done, though, is what Man City have done has made it as hard as physically possible for the FA or whoever it is that are issuing these fines to not necessarily find something, but they've been as difficult to work with. Everton worked with them to get it done quickly, to put it to bed, and it went against them. They should have been as difficult to deal with as possible, and they might have drawn it out. I mean, they'd be sat 12th in the league if they'd not had that, and then stay up. You still get 10 points at some point, but you might be in a bit better position. Who knows?
They've responded well, though, Everton. Like when they got their 10-point deduction, I think they went on like a 4 or 5 game win streak, didn't they?
Yeah, they did very well. They haven't won in 5, lost 2, drawn 3 now. But I don't know. I just think I think they'll come good. And I think it's Luton that are above them, and then it's Forest. I just think Luton will just keep pushing, just keep trying, and Forest don't seem to. I mean, they drew today, didn't they? But they don't seem to have anything in them. I don't see the squad as a Premier League squad.
Who do you think is taking the promotion from Championship position?
Leicester's got it. Leicester's got that.
Yeah, Leicester's got that in the bag, definitely. Yeah. But between Southampton 61 points, Leeds 60 points, Ipswich 59 points, and then it drops quite a bit to West Brom and Hull City.
I mean, Ipswich lost at the weekend, didn't they, to Preston?
Yes, they did. Yeah,
whereas Southampton picked up points.
Southampton are on a ridiculous win streak now, aren't they? It's like 21.
They've not lost a game since September.
Yeah, but. Nice. 2 weeks ago, I'd have probably said Southampton. Leeds have hit a really good form.
Nobody wants to see Leeds go up, though.
No, absolutely. It's one
unless Liverpool go down.
Yeah.
Unless Liverpool get a 60-point deduction.
Yeah, I'd love to see. I don't know what I'd rather see: Leeds stay in the Championship or Liverpool get put in the Championship. I do think Liverpool in the Championship,
like a Rangers type demotion.
Yeah, something like that. To
Conference North.
So here's an interesting one. Then, obviously, James will remember the team Schalke in the German league. They got relegated last year, and they're going through a bit of turmoil. High wages, poorly run club. They're sat 15th in the second division, and if they get relegated into the third division, they will fold as a club because they haven't got a license to play in that league. So they would have to start out, again, at the bottom of the pyramid in the German league.
And they're not going to do that because they won't be able to afford to pay the players.
Well, yeah, exactly. But they haven't got a license. So you have to have a license to play in that third division. Well, they haven't applied for it because they didn't think they'd get in it, and they now won't get it in time.
Interesting. There's some decent teams in the Bundesliga too. I never even realised. Like Dusseldorf, Hannover 96.
Some big teams.
Yeah,
it's a good league. The Bundesliga is a good league, very good league. You know, and for the fan as well, it's cheap. It's to go and watch. I mean, I think it works. It's cheaper for me to fly from Norwich to Germany to watch Borussia Dortmund play than it is for me to go down to the Emirates. You know.
Yeah, and I think a season ticket, isn't it? It's like €99 at Dortmund.
Yeah,
and he's basically turned around and said, "Okay, if we double our price for the season, we'd make an extra something like £1.2 million." And he's like, "What's £1.2 million to a club this big?"
Yeah.
And you're like,
they are all for the fans. I'll give them that.
To be fair, like you want full stands, and I think that's part of the. We're probably going off on a bit of a wild tangent here, but that's probably the Premier League's downfall in a way. It is the biggest league in the world. It's the best league in the world. It draws capacity crowds every single week in, week out. Even midweek, even Wednesday or Thursday fixtures away, Liverpool away at, I don't know, Southampton. It draws a full crowd every single week, so they don't have to put the prices down. If anything, they could creep the prices up, and people would still pay it.
Yeah, there would be, and there's massive waiting lists as well for those kind of games for Liverpool and things. It is pretty sad to watch. Just another thing, just about that with the Schalke and the league thing. I saw something as well in Dubai. To play in the top league in Dubai, you've got to have you can only have, I think it's like 4. No, there's no limit on European players, but your keeper's got to be from that country, from Emirates. Yeah, and then in the first league, you only had 4 European players, and everyone else again has to be from the Emirates. But then in the leagues 3 and 4, there's no cap on it. So the leagues 3 and 4 are better teams, and they always outperform the championship-esque in the cup games. But then when they get promoted, they obviously get rid of half of the squads and they go back down. So no one actually wants to win. No one wants to leave the third league because they lose half of the squads, and then they have to rebuild because the talent. Because you get a lot of lower league players here go over there, and it's better than their championship level.
Yeah. Speaking of, just before we move on from football, speaking of sort of Middle East, Al Nassr played Inter Miami in a friendly on Thursday. I don't know if you guys saw.
Yeah.
Inter Miami 0, Al Nassr 6. And surprisingly, Ronaldo didn't play. It was only a friendly, obviously, but I think Messi came on as a substitute at some point. But even so, 6-0 is a battering from a Saudi Arabian club against. Well, I know Inter Miami didn't do great last season at all, but 6-0 is a thrashing.
At any level, you don't. I don't think Inter Miami have sort of realised what they've got, if that makes sense, in the sense of. Messi is not what they need. If that, they've gone out and got themselves a big franchise player, but he can't do it all around. Do it all on his own, and
it's just a gimmick.
Wait, hang on. Yeah. Luis Suarez plays for Inter Miami.
He does now, yeah.
I did not know that.
Serge Busquets plays at Middle Park as well.
And Jordi Alba.
Yeah.
What is going on there?
But
it's Barcelona, saying it.
Yeah, but you just can't. But they're all 37, 38.
Yeah, this is true.
It catches up on you.
As you know. Not there yet. Not there yet.
England beat India in the first test. And England have got a big run chase tomorrow to start closing down a 332 runs. So I can see India probably taking that one. But a nice little 5-tester to kick the year off. So
can I ask a question? Can I ask a uneducated cricket question? So we've been speaking about the Cricket World Cup recently in India. Have we been speaking about the Cricket World Cup recently?
November. Yeah.
No. Yes. So India absolutely whitewashed everybody, and England came dead last. So what are we talking about? A different format of cricket? And if we are
Test cricket 5 days.
Why then can England hold their own in one form of cricket but not the other? Or is that like saying we can hold our own at football but not netball? Is it 2 different sports?
No, I very much have a similar outlook. What difference is there throwing a ball at some stumps over 5 days than doing it over 20 overs? You've got
the mic.
So T20, even T20 to 1 day is different, and then so you've got to hit as many runs as you can in 20 overs.
Yeah.
And Test cricket's not. It's more tactical. It's more not laboured, but it's trying to think of the best example that you can take from, I guess, James Sevens. rugby sevens.
Well,
Why is sevens so different to a standard game? And to Jordan, it's why do Williams do better in a on a race, a standard race than they do on a sprint race? You've got why are some teams so good at qualifying and then they've got poor race pace? It's a little bit like that. A lot of players, you've got like Zach Crawley that's playing for England at the minute, and he had a really good World Cup. He'll be a good test player. I'm not sure he's going to be a fantastic T20 player, if I'm being completely honest, but because I don't think he's got that not erraticness, but you just got to go for everything in T20, and I'm not sure.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. You've got to swing. You can't afford to jump out of the way. If you're on a 4-5 dater, it's about tactics and it's about team thinking.
And I guess the sprint and a normal race, from a quali to a sprint to a race, teams like Williams have 3 different outcomes. Albon can get himself into the top 10 into Q3 on a quali, but you stick him 5th on the grid and he'll finish 12th, 13th because he hasn't got race pace.
Yeah,
that's probably the best analogy for it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but hopefully we've got another good weekend of football coming up. We've got FA Cup replays midweek, and
tell you what we haven't got.
Go on.
The Fury fight.
Yeah, the 17th of February called off. It's a nasty cut, though. It is a nasty cut.
Well, I said to you sent me a picture. I was like, well, that's not heel.
Just
like a gash, like it had been about the taxpayer.
It is bad. It's really funny as well because a few years ago, 2013, David had a fight called off a week before, very, very similar. And Fury was all over social media saying he's done this on purpose and he needs to get on with it. And then now it's gone the other way. So Hayes been giving him a bit of stick, but I think
he's disappointed because there's a fighting man.
Yeah, just offend a whole group of people there. But he, no, I think some people saying that they saw us come a mile off. They didn't think it was going to go on. They thought Fury was running a bit scared from usage. I'm not sure. I just think it's one of them things, and it'll be back on. Fury will win, and maybe AJ Wilder will get it on. I don't know. They reckon there's a date set, but there's no talks yet.
How did he do it anyway? Do you know?
Sparring. Looked like someone caught him with an elbow. I'll send you.
I will show it. I was knocking him around a bit.
Yeah.
Let's put in a super flyweight, super featherweight in against Tyson.
Super featherweight. I'll say super flyweight is good though. Super flyweight.
Yeah. It's whatever it is. Well, the fight. I think the opening weight's 8 stone, whatever that is. So
the under 9s.
Yeah. So, well, gentlemen, I will speak to you next week. Hopefully, there'll be some better results for the Six Nations for us. Yeah. I'm not holding my breath, but we'll see.
We'll see. All right, man.
Take care. I'll speak to you next week.
Bye.
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 Thanks for joining us this week on the Sportscast podcast. As normal, you'll get us on our social media, Instagram and X, formerly Twitter, @SportscastPodUK. Join us again next week.